It's my book. I think
It's not your book, though, is it? No, because you don't.
Book.
No, because you didn't buy it. Because you don't have a job, do you? You don't pay rent either, do you?
It's
Fat
my
bastard.
book. It's my book.
I can't believe that you're enabling him. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Okay. Shall we?
Yes.
Which of us is to go first?
I'll start. I can start.
Nice.
So it's early in the morning, and we see a guy in his late 20s, possibly early 30s, light brown hair, the sun creeping through his window. He's in a fairly basic room on the lowest floor of the castle, the castle that houses the royal family for this continent, I guess, this country, sorry. And Scott wakes up as the sunlight hits his eyes painfully. He feels he feels an ache down his left leg. He's just woken up and hasn't moved it. He gradually pulls himself up to a sitting position and carefully shifts himself to sit on the side of the bed and looks around at his new lodgings. He arrived here quite late the previous night, and fell into bed from the long journey and hasn't even had a proper look at the place. He can hear down the corridor the cooks starting to put together the food to supply the rest of the household. And Scott gets up and looks at the new armor that's been laid out for him that is much too fancy for his military background, for his tastes. It was quite long, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We flash briefly back to the night before.
Okay.
And Eric, he's in his late 20s. He has very close cropped black hair, deep brown eyes. Is incredibly practicedly climbing up the side of the palace wall. He's quite drunk, but he's made this journey before, and the footholds that he's weathered into the building over the last 10 years, and weathered into the wall over the last 10 years, meet his hands and his feet just where he needs them to, and with practiced grace he flings himself over the side when he reaches the top. He advances towards the palace, seeing the guards to his left and his right on their shift rotation. So this is exactly the right time. He's got here just when he needs to. And hugging the trees and darting across blind spots on the palace lawn, he arrives at a window that's slightly ajar, and he smiles because his little brother left it open for him. Before he steps in, though, to the window, he takes a minute to look up at the sky and feel the cool night air in his lungs feel it swirling around with the sort of lightheadedness and levity that the alcohol's brought him. And he laughs to himself because in many ways this is his last night of freedom. He knows what's happening tomorrow morning. He knows that he's still going to try and find a way to sneak out of the palace, but he imagines it'll probably be more difficult. And actually, as he stands there, he sees a carriage alight and a man step out of it. He's got light brown hair. He looks to be slightly older than Eric. And he carries himself in a very imposing way, very military. It's the first thing Eric notices about him. He stares at the man for slightly too long, catches himself, and steps inside the palace.
We cut back to the present time. Scott is walking down one of the corridors of the palace, his thumb nervously tapping the top of a curious-looking device that in our time we would understand looks very much like a gun. As Scott heads down to the main receiving room for the monarchs, he actually bumps into a young woman who looks very similar to him. This is his sister Felicity, who's got up in a beautiful cornflower blue dress, and she smiles at him and brushes a few crumbs from Scott's collar, and he smiles. He never thought he would see her in such finery, and is happy that the two of them are here and can be much closer than they were previously. Although he's aware that maybe not as close as he would like, given the job that he's about to be given. That's what we see.
Eric groans loudly as the sunlight hits his face. Rubs a hand down his face, groans again, proclaims to the ceiling that he wishes to die, and rolls out of bed onto the floor. You would have thought that he'd be better at handling his alcohol by now, but he's absolutely not. Or at least he's all right handling it at the time. The next morning is awful. And in the next half hour, he sort of stumbles about his room. He showers, takes one look at the razor, and decides to not even try to bother shaving, because the king's firstborn and heir nicking his carotid artery, trying to shave while particularly hungover, is not the way that he wishes to be remembered in death. Instead, he showers, tries to eat something, incredibly unsuccessfully, and gets up in his official princely attire, which he fucking hates. He's wearing like a cobalt blue crushed velvet coat, a shirt with too many fucking frills on it, in his opinion. They're not, he doesn't understand what they're for. He's complained about them to the tailor before. The tailor seems to have taken his complaint on board and added more frills. He steps into a pair of impeccably shined black boots, and leaves his room. And as he steps through the corridors, the rippling marble beneath his feet, ringing out under the sound of the soles of his shoes, he realizes that he is nervous. There is trepidation building in him, because he does have to go to the official receiving room to meet this guy, and that means that his father's going to be there. He stops. He calls for one of the servants in the palace, and he says, tell my father that I have been struck down by a dreadful illness this morning, and I'm not going to be able to attend the official ceremony. But if this man wants to arrive after that, I will be in my chambers in the east wing of the palace. The servant sighs slightly, nods, and goes to relay the message.
We see Scott stood to attention at the right hand of the king. The king slowly, laboriously gets out a timepiece, looks at the time, slowly, laboriously puts it back into his pocket. And a servant enters the room, whispers in the ear of the king. The king sighs, says something to the servants quite insistently, something like, drag him in here. And the servant bows, heads out, and a short while later, 2 palace guards emerge, literally dragging Scott into the room. No, it's literally it's dragging Eric into the room.
Eric is bright red. The tips of his ears are scarlet. He is so embarrassed. He was trying to keep up with them, but they were marching so insistently that eventually he realized that the smartest course of action was actually to just go limp and let them drag him in. But he thought that they would at least, as these guards drag him in, he was saying, I thought you would at least let me regain my composure before just, Father. The king doesn't respond.
Scott is trying so hard not to laugh, because this is the last thing that he expected from a royal. He'd heard stories that the prince next in line to the throne was a bit of a maverick, but the sight of this red-faced posh boy hauled in front of his father like a school child is almost enough to make it was so surprising. It's almost enough to make him break his calm appearance. He just about manages not to laugh because he knows it would be very, very bad if he laughed in this situation, given the stony expression on the king's face.
Eric marches into the center of the room. There's a carpet down atop the marble, leading to the king's throne. And obviously he recognizes Scott standing on his right, but pretends not to. He bows exaggeratedly, one of his arms lifting up in the air as his body bends in an unnecessarily camp flourish.
Scott pretends to cough to hide the laughter that is just starting to emanate from him.
As he rises, Eric's eyes flick to Scott briefly, and they say, I know. Eric makes stony-faced eye contact with the king and says, hello, I'm here.
The king responds, hello, I noticed.
Now that you've dragged me in here, shall I just take the man and go? Is there a ceremony? I'm sorry I'm late. I was under the impression...
I wanted to give the illusion that we still have tradition and protocols, no matter how much you enjoy flaunting them. This
yes, Father.
Is Scott. He was a captain in the army, and he is now entrusted to you to ensure that you get yourself into a absolute minimum of mischief. In fact, no mischief at all would be the preferable option here.
Eric, as soon as the king says that Scott was in the army, is like biting his lip, trying not to say anything. He's torn between shouting, I called it, to the room, and saying in an incredibly grandiose manner, "Oh, I do love a man in uniform." um, but he realizes now is not the time, and any brief confidence that was instilled in him by his stupid bow and general fucking about is being replaced, as it always is, by just a sense of crushing shame and disappointment that the king is emanating towards him. And he looks at the floor and shifts on his feet and says, "Right. Sorry. Hi, Scott."
Scott, his composure regained, looks at Eric and bows his head respectfully. "Pleasure to meet you."
Can we go, Father? I imagine I'm gonna have to show him around. I'll give you a little tour. Everything in here looks the same. It's all white marble,
Yes,
frankly.
the king holds up his hand. Yes, I'm aware. All right. Go. And keep an eye on him, he says to Scott. Scott.
"I will, Father, don't worry," Eric says.
Not you!
Ignoring.
Scott cannot keep a smile off his face and turns his face away so the king doesn't see. The king is too preoccupied with being angry with his son to notice.
Eric does see, and he smiles, and holds a hand out in front of him for the servants to open the door, and ushers Scott to walk through.
Excellent. So where do they walk to, these two?
They walk to they walk to Eric's quarters in the east wing of the house, because that's like all of the rest of the royals live in the west wing, and Eric's been consigned to the east wing because it's the furthest away from everyone else, and they don't want him to bother them. So they walk there because that's where Scott will be spending most of his time. And Eric is kind of keeping up this like constant chatter as they move, just pointing out columns and stating facts, pointing to paintings and statues, not letting Scott get a word in edgeways. And it's quite a walk, so he monologues for 5 straight minutes before they get to the east wing.
Oh, chatty fella, aren't you?
I just want to share the knowledge and history of this great palace, this monument to family strength. You might think that all the paintings of old men look the same, and I thought I would help you by explaining that they're all basically the same but very slightly different. You don't talk much, though.
No, well, there is a question of rank here. I am to accompany you and to help you, but also to keep you out of trouble.
Don't. Please don't do that. You are essentially an enforced friend, right? I mean, I know that you're here to protect me, but we are going to be spending almost all of our time together, and I can't spend all of my time with someone who needs to defer to me. It's just not, it's boring. I'm Eric, you're Scott. It's fine.
I can understand that. Well, you're a lot different than I imagined. You know, the royals do like to project an image of serene monarchiness, and I'd heard about your exploits, obviously.
Yes. I'm keeping so many tabloids in business. I consider it to be my royal responsibility to the economy of this great kingdom to keep people having something to talk about, I suppose. But yes, as you may have guessed, my father and I don't see exactly eye to eye. And so I live here, this is where I spend most of my time. As you can see, it's on completely the other side of the palace as the rest of my family, because they like to pretend that I don't exist, which is incredibly difficult considering that I need to spend 2 hours in cabinets minimum with my father every day. But they manage, and I manage too. He opens the door for you, and you can just see a long corridor, but there's no marble. There are obviously still columns at the sides, but there's carpet covering the floor, like wall to wall, end to end. And Eric points at it and says, I had this installed because it was less noticeable when I was sneaking back into the castle at night. Carpet covers footsteps. Much easier than marble does.
I see.
Suppose I shouldn't be telling you all of my tricks, but I'll tell you some of them. Anyway, what's mine is yours. Anything here, feel free to, there's a library over there, you can hang out. There's a drawing room there, a living room there, my bedroom's at the end. And there's one door that is like immediately on your left as you enter. And he points to it and says, just please don't go in there. And I know that when I say that, your immediate instinct is to go in there.
Yes.
Don't.
I will not.
Thank you. I've had bodyguards that decided to before. And I made things incredibly unpleasant for them. That sounds bad. I mean that I am willing to kind of cooperate until the point where you annoy me, and then I will go out of my way to do things as destructive to the family reputation as possible, so my father has no choice but to fire you.
That's interesting. It's good to know that there's a projected timeline that I can prepare myself for. It's very useful to know.
You know, I wouldn't have believed that you were in the army. You're too facetious. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, you did say you didn't want someone who constantly defers to you.
No, that's true. I'm just not used to people taking that instruction on board.
Oh, we'll see how.
He gestures to the drawing room, and it's got like a huge window.
Scott is overwhelmed by this room. He's trying not to make it. He's trying not to be obvious about it, but like where he comes from, carpets are not like a thing. Like the idea of a carpet is ridiculously luxurious to him. He looks out through the window, the palace grounds.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It overlooks the section that the East Wing overlooks is primarily forest. There are more landscape gardens towards the East Wing, but the West Wing overlooks this gorgeous evergreen pine forest on the castle's estate. And you can just see a clearing in it, in which the glimmering surface of a lake is somewhat visible. There are 2 chairs overlooking it, and between the chairs there is a small table with a fancy silver pitcher of coffee on it, and Eric gestures for you to sit. I'm afraid that I broke the rules again last night, so I cannot describe to you how dire my hangover is. Please have some coffee.
Scott takes out a notebook and writes down the fact that you broke the rules last night, puts it back in his pocket. Oh, it's just for my report, you understand. I am supposed to be keeping you out of trouble, and you just freely admitted to getting yourself into trouble last night, so that is on you.
That you were not in charge last night. That's amnesty. I came
You can go
back
King.
onto the castle grounds
I'm
before
not
you
su-
even got here.
All right, I'm not sure your father is really going to care about that. But so I will write it down. Well,
Are you
perhaps if he doesn't care about it, you won't get in trouble, and then you have nothing to be worried about if I do write it down.
I are you
What?
this is new. He's never got people to write things down before. What? How often are you reporting to him? Daily? Weekly? Are you going to talk to him now?
Oh well, he discussed with me that a weekly review might be appropriate currently, and if infractions continue, a daily review might come into the picture.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, that man is going to be the death of me. He pours himself a coffee, puts 6 sugars into it, um, looks out over the forest, downs it, puts it back on the table, and turns back to you. Right. That now I can think. I don't like it. I don't like that. It's bad.
Scott puts his hand on the table and leans over. I'm not just some hired mercenary. Let me remind you, I was a captain. I commanded men. I disciplined deserters. I am good at taking care of things.
So why did you quit then? Or was it a dishonorable discharge?
Oh, the war is not fun. And this sounded more fun.
Well, from my position, it sounds like it's going to be no fun at all. I've really done it now.
Don't give up so easily. You sound like you can make fun out of anything.
You know, it's like there's a tightrope, right? And I'm just trying to stay balanced. He's doing all of these hand gestures, by the way. I'm just trying to stay balanced on it. And then I'm realizing now that I've made an error.
Yes.
And that's not, having fun shouldn't be difficult. I mean, it should a bit, but not this difficult. I just want to have fun. Is that terrible? Is that so illegal? It's not. It's not illegal for anyone in this kingdom to have fun apart from me. And I'm gonna be the king.
Well, I suppose you can either learn some discipline or you can up your game.
Okay. Interesting. He tries to pat his pockets for a notebook to write that down. And what he actually finds is like a crumpled like bar napkin. He reaches over to a desk that's in the corner, grabs a fancy fountain pen, and
I was going to hand you a pen, but you got one already. Never mind.
And writes it down. See, I can take notes as well.
Very good, my liege.
Oh, I mean, I have to give my father credit. He managed to find the most insufferable person to be my bodyguard. Incredible.
Scene.
Yes. Incredible. That was so good. I love that.
I'm not timing this, by the way. I realised I wasn't timing it. I can't be bothered.
Yeah. I mean, that was like 25 minutes long.
Yeah, that was great how it transitioned beautifully into the meet cute. Lovely.
Yeah.
So the brunch. Who is going to have the brunch?
I mean, I have an idea. Do you have an idea?
I have an idea as well, but you spoke first, so you go.
Okay, so I have Oh, actually, no. Yours makes do yours.
So my idea was that it's there's a banquet in there's a banquet that's just on, that's just been, it's not quite clear what event it is for, it doesn't matter. And I wanted to set up a scene where Scott talks to Felicity about his job. This is tricky because they're supposed to be with each other the whole time. And
well,
also,
I mean, the thing is not, it's like, it's not the whole time. Like, if he's sleeping or if he's in cabinet meetings.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So if Eric's in a cabinet meeting, that's Scott's free time.
Okay, so he's standing guard outside the cabinet meeting. And Felicity knows that Felicity knows that that's going on and comes to talk to him.
Okay, so you see, sorry.
So Scott is just stood outside the door with another guard, hands behind his back.
My query here is that if there's another guard there, would that impede?
Nah, he's mates with the guards. He's cool with the guards.
Right, but if he's going to be like, I want to put my dick in the prince, I mean, he's not going to say that.
No.
But like, but like, I worry again, I don't know, I'm worried about the autonomy thing, because also like...
Yeah, okay, fine. So he's with another guard, the other guard goes for a piss. And it's just him by himself, and Felicity happens to... Yeah, okay. But there we go. So
sorry, I don't know if that was weird. I'm just
that's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, yeah, the other guy goes for piss, Felicity, and Felicity happens upon him.
What are you doing? It's been a bastard. Okay, so you see a girl like round the corner, and she's moving with purpose. She's wearing a turquoise dress. She's covered in freckles, and her hair is sort of beautifully, neatly plaited above her head, and it's the same kind of like light brown as Scott's. She turns the corner and she's like, "Hiya."
Hiya.
Thought you'd be here.
Well, of course, cabinet meeting.
So how is it?
What, the prince?
Yeah, obviously.
He is a tearaway.
You know, we talk about it, me and the other ladies, when we're doing, you know, like our embroidery or whatever, God. And, you know, they say things, and I'm like, that can't be true. Is it? Is it all true?
What have they said?
I heard
heard
that he went into the forest, and he lured a bear back into his wing and kept it there for like a week. Did he do that?
Not a animal bear.
Oh my God.
Oh, thank God. I thought I'd have to explain, but it turns out the circles you move in, you seem to be informed already.
Why are you talking like that?
Talking like what?
Like, I don't know, Scott. You're talking all fancy, and I mean, I guess I suppose I do it too. But I think what?
No, it's infected me already being around posh people.
God, I know. The other ladies, there are a couple, you know. There's like one from a similar background as me. It was a whole thing. It was like a love marriage. But they sort of most of them find the way I talk endearing, which is nice, I suppose, if it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I know what you mean. I do sometimes feel, especially, you know, at banquets, like the one that's on tonight, I feel like I've got to be all sort of, hello. I'm the Lady Felicity. So it's just
Nobody
nice.
laugh
It's just...
and they'll hear me.
Oh, come on. They're in there talking about fighting and soldiers and whatever.
I think the prince sort
But
of
is it...
sees me this. I think the prince sort of sees me in that sort of light as well, though. Like,
I mean, I hate to say it, but you've got to expect it. You know, they can count on one hand the amount of times they've talked to someone like us. Like, is he... I know he's difficult, but he's not mean to you, is he? Because if he is, I swear to God, I will kick his posh ass.
he does his best to be mean to me, but it's really, really quite pitiful. So it doesn't actually bother me. You know, he thinks he knows how to swear, but it's really just like, I mean, it's like he has absolutely no idea the kind of things I've heard from from being in the army.
From squaddies. I remember you'd come home to visit at Christmas, and when Mum was out of the room, you'd tell me, you'd give me a rundown of the 10 worst things you'd heard in the barracks that tour. Oh, it was amazing. You know, one time I let one of those slip in the playground, and I got sent home for a week.
As you should have been. He's not a bad sort, though. He acts out to get at his dad. He doesn't.
Oh, one of those.
And of course, acting out's fun. A lot more fun than being a prince and doing what a prince is expected to do. I can understand why he behaves the way he does.
It doesn't matter though, does it? Like, if you're a prince, just be fucking grateful that you're a prince. Just be grateful that you're a prince. You know? Like, sorry, I try so hard not to swear on the other ladies, and sometimes it just... Oh, having a filter is exhausting. I just don't... God, I just... Like, what's his biggest problem, really?
That they don't do cream of the right thickness for his treacle tart.
Right? That's what I can't stand. I don't understand how I'm meant to have sympathy for him. I just... Whatever. I don't want to make your job more difficult by complaining to you about him.
Are you happy? Because, I mean, what you've got is part of the deal that I was given, and
I am happy, Scott. Genuinely, I was fine before. Went to university. I love being a teacher, but I felt so powerless all the time, and now at least I've got something. I've got, you know, we live very different lives, me and the rest of the girls, but I really care about him. We're really good friends.
you got the chance to get connected.
Yeah, I know. I just want a better life for my kids when I end up having them, and this is the way that I know I can do that. And
yeah, you could marry some lady or lord. What? Is there a lady or lord that you have your eye on, my dear sister?
maybe there's a lady.
Which lady?
Lady of Northumberland.
Admirable choice.
She came to visit because, you know, the dance. There's so many dances, but you know the one that was last week?
Vaguely, yes.
Yes. You know, they're not being subtle about the fact that they need the princes to get married. So they brought a bunch of people. It was really great. I was walking in the grounds after, and I ran into her, and she was smoking. You know, I love danger. And we just talked for 2 hours, and it was like so much happened, but no time passed at all. And we're writing each other letters now, and I don't know. She seems letters, yeah,
Letters?
letters with a
That's big, Fliss.
wax seal and everything. I know.
Wax
I always
seal.
said I was a fast mover. Well,
Blinking
now that I
heck.
found myself a lady, we need to find you a lord.
Oh, I mean, I can't exactly, can I? I mean, I'm stuck to His Highness.
There's not exactly much of a future there, is there?
No, unless I find someone who's happy to have the next king be third wheel constantly.
You could always marry the prince.
Oh, get away! Ridiculous.
The joke. I was joking. I just look. I'll try. I'll use my connections. Try and find you someone. I don't know.
I appreciate that, Bliss.
No, really. You've done so much for me, and I just want you to be happy, Scott. Are you happy?
I'm nearer to you than I have been since we were children. And that means so much to me, that I'm back and I get to see you every day, and not in these fleeting glimpses where I'm suddenly chipped off and about to die, possibly.
Tell you what, I'd gotten so used to the anxiety whenever you went away that I didn't know that was what it was. But I do sleep easier every night now.
Me too, Fliss.
I love you, Scott.
Love you too, sis.
You can hear movements from inside as the cabinet meeting draws to a close and everyone stands up. And Fliss gives you a hug, quick peck on the cheek. I'll see you soon.
See ya.
And she runs off.
Excellent.
That was so nice and wholesome.
So cute. I really love doing solo scenes like that. I have an idea for fire, but I just suggested a brunch. The brunch, basically.
No, go for it. Go.
I want to Scott teaching Eric how to like defend himself with weapons.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, right.
Incredible. Here for it. 1 minute. I'm just going to open a window. Actually, do you mind if I pee as well?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Nice. Legends only. Oh god, that's just, you're so good at suggesting homoerotic concepts. I love that for you.
Hi. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a call. What's up? Wait, no, tell me what's happened. Oh, God. Okay, 1 second. This is really weird. I'm recording a Twoprov rehearsal with Leo right now.
Oh shit!
No, it's okay. This seems very important, so I will. Don't worry. Leo's gone to the loo, so I've got. I mean, we were on a break anyway. Oh my God! Armando Iannucci responded to you.
You went to fucking Rome for a pun.
I'm trying to. I can never figure out how to like look at the original. Oh, there we go. I remember to pause the show for a good 10 minutes and ranted my partner about a 20-second piece to camera in front of the Vatican. That's right, we flew EasyJet to Rome for that one shot. God, I love this man. That is amazing. I'm so glad he responded to you.
I genuinely can't deal with 2020 right now. It's too much.
I remember us both going, holy shit. I remember you did tweet him a while ago and he never responded.
Oh man.
Oh, so cool.
I didn't know. I just had to tell you because I don't know. Because apparently Armando Iannucci is a madman and no one is safe. I don't know.
This is amazing.
Anyway, I was going to message you and then I thought, no, this is more important. Anyway, I'll leave you to your thing.
That's ridiculous. They went to Rome. Why did they go to Rome for one shot? He's mad.
To basically stand in front of a fucking Catholic building in the Vatican.
Why? Only Iannucci.
I can't live with this right now.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for ringing me and telling me about this.
Okay, go and enjoy your. Also, try explaining that to fucking Leo. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
I love you so much, you terrible boy.
So Richard just rang me and was like, I was like, check your Twitter, something's happened. I was like, oh fuck. And so you know the Armando Iannucci shows, which is like a series of sketch shows that Armando Iannucci.
Yeah.
So there's one episode when me and Richard watched it originally. There's one episode where he's doing a piece to camera and appears to just be at the Vatican. And he doesn't comment on it, and it never comes up in the rest of the show. And we were like, that's not a green screen, because this was filmed in the 90s and green screens weren't that good on this budget. Like, so we were like, did he just go to the Vatican for one shot? And so we tweeted him and he didn't respond. And like recently Armando Iannucci was like, hey, all of the Armando Iannucci shows are up on 4AD again. Go and watch them. And Richard tweeted and said, did you go to the Vatican for one shot? And Armando Iannucci was like, yeah, we got EasyJet and went to Rome for that one shot.
Oh God, that's such an Armando Iannucci thing to do.
Because we assumed that he'd done the shot when he was on like holiday and just happened. But I was like, how on earth would that fit into a shooting schedule? Like, that would be too niche and ridiculous. I'm so happy that he went.
That's so ridiculous and so like. It's just such a him thing to do.
Yeah. So Richard just rang me and was just like, look, he did do the thing.
That's incredible. My rabbi just texted me and I'm just gonna not. Like, sorry, Lev.
Okay, where did we get to?
We're at fire.
That was it, yeah.
And they're you are teaching Eric. Scott is teaching Eric to fight.
Yeah, sword fighting.
Yeah. So I imagine they're in. It's like a nice day, and they're outside.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a sparring ground for the palace guard that is empty for the day, and so it's like tightly packed sawdust with a low fence around it, and a wall with like training weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
Eric is wearing black riding boots and trousers, and it's so hot that he's taken most of his clothes off and is just wearing like a vest. And he is at this moment fucking downing some water that someone's just brought out because he is not having a good time.
Scott's taken off the kind of upper layer of his ceremonial uniform that he really doesn't like wearing anyway. And he's wearing like a kind of like a collarless white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, top buttons undone. There's a bit of chest hair poking through.
Eric is looking respectfully.
Scott is looking respectfully at Eric, obviously not being obvious about it, but as the days and weeks have gone on, he's admitted to himself that Eric is not terrible to look at in the slightest, and is quite fun.
Yeah, Eric's slowly come to the realization that Scott is his favorite bodyguard that he's ever had. And he has been, he's had to admit to himself that he has been easier on him, that he hasn't been going out as much, that he hasn't been breaking the rules. And he hates that that's true, but it is. And he, as they've been training, he's also realizing that he just really wants to be good at things that Scott teaches him. Like, he doesn't want Scott to think that he's just useless and posh, even though he is. So Eric puts down the cup that he was drinking from, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, and says, "Should we go again?"
Yep. All right.
Okay. So, what style of fighting are they doing? With weapons?
That was something that I was going to bring up. So I feel like they just did a round of like fencing, so like very structured, like specific moves and stuff.
Eric was bad at that.
Yeah. And Scott stands apart from Eric and says, "Well, fencing is useful up to a certain point, but if you want to defend yourself, your enemies are not gonna, neatly feint and foil. They'll probably come at you with a few more nefarious means. So we can look at some of those if you like."
Yeah. As soon as Scott said, "Defend yourself," like a chill ran over Eric for a second. He shivers, maybe not noticeably, and his chest tightens. He forces himself to breathe out, and he's like, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Scott takes a note of that expression. Doesn't comment on it right now, but remembers it. Well, the first thing that you've got to know, and he lunges forward.
Oh, you bastard! Eric, like, Eric doesn't so much as like see Scott move as feel him like lunge into him suddenly.
And the swords are not like real swords; they're like blunted fencing swords.
Oh, we're still using swords. I thought that we were like.
They're fencing swords.
I thought we were just on fisticuffs. Okay, so Eric yells, "Oh, you bastard!" And tries to parry the blow. Is somewhat successful, but his wrist weakens, and Scott knocks the sword out of his hand.
Mm-hmm. The second the sword is out of his hand, Scott gives a swift kick to the back of one of Eric's to the back of one of Eric's feet, and not and to unsteady his weight, and then lightly shoves him over. Not too hard to like really hurt him, but just enough to show him how easy it is.
Eric grabs Scott
as he's falling
by the front of his shirt and pulls. They land in a tangle on the ground, and Eric is like, still got a few tricks up my sleeve.
Yes, that you do. I was expecting you to be more surprised. Good work. And Scott, like on top of Eric, lingers for a second, and then gets up.
Eric's eyes flutter closed, like he's hoping for a kiss that he knows won't come.
Come on, let's get on with it. Come on.
Yep.
Next bout.
Eric jumps back up, grabs his sword, and like glares at Scott with steely determination.
Scott glares back with a similar steely determination.
Right then.
Yes.
Well, come on.
Well, come on.
Fight me.
He jabs you.
Eric is almost like relieved that he didn't have to make the first move. And retaliates, almost hitting Scott, but not quite.
Scott grabs one of Eric's shoulders and maneuvers Eric around so that he can grab both of Eric's arms and like hold them behind him.
I mean, this just isn't fair, is it? You're being a bastard.
You said you didn't want someone who constantly defers to you. Do you call this deferring to you?
Fine, I give in. Let's take it from the fucking top.
All right.
Eric
releases you, goes back to the starting position.
Eric tries not to focus on the feeling of like lingering electricity that Scott's hands leave on him.
Scott is also feeling a kind of a thrill run through him of having the next in line to the throne like absolutely at his mercy, and then like that kind of realization sort of goes over him as he realizes what he's doing. He's teaching Eric to defend himself, but he's really actually being given quite a lot of trust here that he didn't quite appreciate.
As Scott is having this moment of realization, Eric lunges and catches Scott in the ribs. Ha!
All right, you got me. Good technique.
Thanks. You might have caught it if you weren't daydreaming.
Yeah, fair point. I got lost in myself for a second there.
How? But there won't always be swords, will there?
No, you're very right. And he grabs Eric by the hair and like makes as if to punch and doesn't do it, obviously.
Eric like gasps and flinches, and he's just trying really hard not to think about Scott's hands in his hair, and how they feel really nice. And instead, he grabs Scott by the front of his shirt and does actually punch him in the stomach.
Oh. And Scott actually punches Eric in the face. But
Eric,
Scott jumps back and is immediately like so shocked at what he's done and can't believe what he's done. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, Eric. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Manish. I was on instinct. I wasn't thinking.
Scott, it's fine. It's fine.
I just punched a bloody. Sorry. Damn. Sorry. Your father is not going to like this.
My father doesn't have to know. I punched you first.
Oh, and I lean over and look at the red mark that I've left on your cheekbone and sort of gently gently touch it. Oh, damn, that's going to be obvious, isn't it? Oh.
I can borrow some makeup from one of the ladies in waiting. I can cover it up. Nobody has to know.
Right. Good. Again, I apologise. That was... I know I've been teaching you to defend yourself, but that was really out of order of me.
It's fine.
Scott is still overcome by embarrassment, and actually takes a knee and drops his head in deference to you.
Eric lifts both hands to his head and looks down at Scott kneeling in front of him and is just like, he doesn't know what to do with this. He stands for a while, just looking down, holding one hand to the blossoming pain on his cheek. Get up, Scott.
Scott nods and gets up.
Eric puts his fists up in front of him.
Oh, if I lay any more bruises on you, there'll be trouble for me. I
Just don't hit me anywhere noticeable. You know, this isn't the first time a man's given me a bruise that I have to cover up, Scott. Trust me, I know how to deal with this.
Please. Scott wearily puts up his fists. And
Rick lunges as soon as he does that. And where before, when they were fencing, there was an understanding of the theory behind it. There was a calculated way. It was sloppy and it was not well calculated, but he was calculating his moves. Now Eric is just like flailing and desperate to land a punch. He's not thinking.
Scott blocks the blows easily, and ends up again twisting one of Eric's hands behind his back, this time ending up with his other hand on Eric's throat. You see, if you're not careful.
Yeah, I know. You can feel Eric's body kind of go slack under your hands. He's still standing up, but he's just relaxed.
Scott relinquishes his grip.
I think that's enough fighting for one day, Scott.
I scared you. I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. Eric
Something's on your
leans
mind.
down. It's nothing. It's nothing. And Eric grabs his shirt and starts walking back towards the palace.
Scott grabs his ceremonial jacket and runs after. See?
The sun.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna do a scene paint.
No, did you do scene paint?
The sun falls behind a cloud, and the two men feel a chill as they walk back up to the door.
Excellent.
Okay. So now it's another duo scene, and someone has to fuck something up. But was that? No, it needs to be more obvious. I don't know.
I've got Rift next.
Yes, yeah, which is a duo. So,
oh, you got them written down as solo and duos. Okay, never mind. Okay.
I think.
I don't know what you think.
No. Say what you think.
No, I'm aware that I pitched the last two scenes though.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
we've been over this. Whoever's got an idea, goes.
Okay, well, I'm thinking the obvious thing is that Scott looks in the room that he's not supposed to look in.
Oh fuck! I forgot about that plot device entirely. Yes, we should do that. Yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out, like, I guess that it makes the most sense that Scott and Eric would share, like, because Eric lives in like a kind of like apartment kind of thing, right, with its multiple rooms.
Yeah.
It makes sense that Scott would be there to like stop assassination attempts and stuff.
Yeah, he sleeps there. He sleeps in one of the spare rooms. And Eric's a late sleeper.
Yeah.
So Scott usually has time in the morning.
Yeah. I reckon it's the early hours. And it's one of those mornings where Scott is just sort of happened to awake earlier than he would do normally. He glances out of the huge window overlooking the forest, that beautiful, untamed forest. And seeing how low the sun is in the sky and hearing the birds through the tweeting through the window, Scott knows it's very early. He tries to go back to sleep, doesn't quite work, so he gets up, checks on Eric, who is still asleep.
Yeah, soundly sleeping, starfished out in his bed. Also, Eric sleeps naked. It's canon.
Scott, as he has begun to do recently, stops and lingers. The checking on Eric is less of a functional thing than it was, and he enjoys seeing him. He enjoys seeing Eric just laid out, asleep and beautiful. He closes the door and turns back to the main chamber, and his eyes are light on the little door that he's been told emphatically over and over again he must not touch, or his life will become very difficult. He thinks about Felicity and how if he does fuck up here, it's not just going to be him that's affected, it's going to be her. It's going to be her social standing, her chance at getting connections, at getting a chance at upper class life. And he thinks, well, he's asleep. It's fine. And moving quietly across the carpet, opens the door of his little chamber and peeks inside.
The first thing that he notices is that there's as he pushes the door open, there's a tiny amount of resistance, which I imagine would put down to just kind of like, it's an old door, it doesn't get opened as often.
Yeah.
And he steps inside, and once he's actually in the room proper,
I don't think he'd go in. I think he'd just look around the corner.
Okay, so he like pokes his head in.
Yeah.
And what he can see is a candle. He thinks all he can see is the flame encased in glass, burning at the far end of the room. And all around it there are sketches and paintings of the same woman. She has dark skin that is given dimension by the candlelight, a kind face. Her hair is beginning to grey, but she looks regal. She's never looking directly at the painting and portrait. She's always side on or standing away in the landscape. And he also notices that there are papers scattered on the desk that the flame rests on that are all covered in the same black ink.
Intrigued by the sight of such a strange room, Scott looks around and steps inside to get a better look in the dim light.
The room closer to the door, so the furthest away wall of the room is structured somewhat with the paintings and the flame. And there are curtains, there are windows, but the curtains are closed, heavy curtains, not letting in any light. But the room closest to the door is kind of in disarray. The tapestries that were on the wall have been torn. There was sort of like fabric hanging off that's also been kind of like ripped up and left on the floor. And again, those papers covered in the same black handwriting there are versions of them kind of crumpled up and scattered on the floor. And it's odd. There is this disorder and order so close to one another that don't seem to overlap but touch each other. And it's strange to look at.
As Scott is looking around trying to figure out who this woman would be, and he suddenly realizes it's the Queen. Of course it's the Queen. The dead Queen.
He realizes that, and then he hears a voice from behind him.
Scott
because
freezes.
as soon as he opened the door, a small string which runs from the door through all of the rooms to James's bedroom,
to Eric's bedroom.
Eric's bedroom. I don't know why I keep defaulting back to James. To Eric's bedroom, rang a bell insistently. That eventually woke him up, and he has just kind of like pulled on some clothes and run to the room. And he stands in the doorway and says, "What are you doing?"
Scott freezes, knowing that there's absolutely nothing he can say that will absolve him of this. I should never. I didn't realise.
I know that my father asked a lot of you, but I asked one thing of you, and it was to not not come into this room. Tell me what the logic is here, Scott. Tell me how you rationalize this to yourself.
I didn't think you'd realise. I thought I could just look, and I didn't realise this was wrong of me. Chuck me out, but leave Fliss alone, all right?
I do not wish to do anything to harm your sister. And you can see that he kind of looks up at one of the paintings and then looks back at you. And his demeanor is different. You've never seen him this. His voice is cold and angry, but his body is deferent and afraid.
Scott has by this point turned to look at you. The just absolute guilt and anger coursing through him, knowing there's absolutely nothing he can do to fix this. There's nothing he can say. There's no joke he can make. There's no apology that will work here.
As I said, I don't wish to do anything that will affect your sister standing in court. She's a lovely girl. Your stupid mistake shouldn't hurt her. But you... I don't want to look at you. I will let you stay until your sister is married. And when that day comes, you will get out and never come here again.
You are a kind and gracious prince. I thank you.
There's a flicker of disgust in his face at the deference, but where he would normally joke about it with you or tell you to stop it, he just sighs. He walks forward into the room, past you, not looking at you, and takes a seat at the desk, puts his head in his hands and says, "Get out."
I can't just do that. Your
I
father...
mean, get out of the room, Scott.
Okay. Sorry, I understand. And he swiftly leaves and sits at the little table near the big window. Also, head in hands.
Eric cries.
And so does Scott.
Scene.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Drama!
Okay, so I have a pitch-ish.
Go ahead.
So the realization scene needs to be, well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be Scott because he knows that he's fucked up. Eric's father is like traveling somewhere, so he knows that he'll be keeping less of a close eye on him for the next week. And Eric runs away from the palace into the city.
How and when does he do this?
He stays in the room that sustains and torments him all day, and waits until sunset, and then he opens the curtains and climbs out of the window, all the while apologizing under his breath for letting light hit it. Because he knows that Scott won't come in to check on him, because it's like the one rule that he's been given.
Hmm.
And then he takes the route that he's used to escape into town. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to do a solo scene here?
Mm,
Or at least start as a solo scene, possibly, and maybe it will become a duo, we don't know. It makes sense for it to be a solo.
Yeah, I think that he goes to his favourite bar,
Mhm.
and there's like he has friends there who kind of know that he's the prince, don't really make a big deal out of it.
He's still in his pajamas.
Oh yeah, he fully is. But the thing is that his pajamas are so fancy that they look just like stupid normal person clothes.
All right, great.
And he's sat drinking, and I think just kind of like looking down at the familiar patterns in the wood on the table that he's sitting at, drinking terrible ale, listening to the bard who is playing music for a drag queen, cheering when he needs to, but just exhausted and sad, and waiting to find someone to talk to.
Okay. So I think a figure, a man, a little bit older than Eric, maybe his mid-30s, comes and sits at the table, gives a look across at Eric, doesn't immediately say anything.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
It's been a while.
Haven't seen you around here, I was just thinking.
Well, I've started taking my monarchic duties seriously. Can't be skipping out to go to the bar every night.
I looked for you. I missed you.
Oh. I'm sorry, darling. And he reaches forward and brushes his hands over Alex's in that kind of practiced, like proto-platonic, proto-romantic reassurance.
Yeah.
I've been having boy trouble.
Really? I heard you got suited up with a new bodyguard. Where's he then?
I don't know. I imagine at this point he's just realised that I've run out on him and is about to assemble a team of guards to frantically look for me. I suppose.
Just like the rest of them, eh? Stupid. No fun.
He was, though. He was until he wasn't. I really liked him. He didn't treat me like an idiot. he didn't treat me like, I don't know, like, I mean, he didn't treat me like the person that I was, which was a posh twat with a penchant for getting bodyguards in trouble. He just treated me like a person, and it was so reassuring to.
Are you drunk already?
Listen, I've not. Yes, shut up. I'm having a monologue. It was so nice to have that there, to not have to escape to find someone like that. And then he did the thing I asked him not to do.
I see. I don't know what the thing is, but I can understand by the tone of your voice the kind of infraction it must have been. And I think Eric notices a hooded figure enter the bar and peel off to the side to a different table. That's all.
Okay. Eric sees this and then convinces himself that it's just him being paranoid like he always is. And he leans closer towards Alex. How have you been anyway?
Oh, I've been all right. Just killing rats mainly. There's no mercenary jobs, no decent mercenary jobs around at the minute. Yep, killing rats, a couple of drakes occasionally. Those are a bit more fun.
I can see if there are any openings at the palace.
I'd appreciate that.
Anything for a friend.
Do you have any openings yourself?
Wow, she's bold today. Okay.
You haven't got your nanny with you.
Fuck
And
off.
a second hooded figure enters the bar, peels off to a different table.
Alex.
Hmm?
And Eric leans in like he's about to kiss you and then murmurs in your ear, do you have any weapons with you?
You hear a shing of metal from both sides of the room. They're screaming, and the two hooded figures head directly for you.
Fuck,
Alex is looking around wildly, has absolutely no idea what's going on.
Alex, do you have a dagger? Anything? I need something, please.
And before he can answer, he's been pushed over by another patron. There is screaming. The bar is totally frantic, and Alex is actually sort of stepped on by a few people running to get away, and the hooded figures are descending on you.
I crouch over him, trying to protect him from the blows and the people. Alex, we need to get you up. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. And the tension in the air is very tight at the minute.
I am like drunk, so not thinking clearly, but the only thing in my mind is that I have to protect Alex from whatever the fuck is going on. I can't let someone else down like that. And so with considerable effort, I put my arm under his shoulders, put his arm over mine, and try and like lift him up. We've just got to get you somewhere safe. Alex, we just got to.
I'm sorry.
Does Alex have a weapon?
He gasps. Sorry, I'm sorry.
What do I see?
Alex does have he has a dagger on him.
Is he wounded?
He's heavily bruised. He's possibly got a broken rib or so from being stepped on.
Okay.
You know that the figures are upon you. They are about, like, if you don't get out, then you're going to be in serious trouble.
I reach forward and grab Alex's dagger. Like push him behind me and turn wild-eyed to the figures and say, fucking come on then. But you're gonna kill a prince in his pajamas. Fucking do it. I dare you.
Both of them have like proper actual swords that glint under the kind of like the candlelight of the bar, of the tavern, and one of them aims to like stab you.
I dodge it, but only just, and I can feel the metal like whistling past me. Fuck.
You notice that he wasn't they weren't aiming for your chest, like, but they were aiming for your leg, actually.
Okay. I noticed that, but I don't like pay attention to it because I'm assuming that they're gonna like fucking kill me. I still have my other arm like behind me, like on Alex's like cloak, so I know that he's still there, that I've still got him, that I can still save him. And I like lunge wildly at one of them, aiming for the face, the shoulder, wherever I can, just like slashing my dagger through the air aimlessly.
The figure moves just about out of the way, seems surprised at your accuracy given how drunk you are. Their faces are in heavy shadow from the hoods.
I exhale, remember everything that Scott's taught me, and I let go of Alex, and kind of like try to let my body move in the motion and the muscle memory to just try and, I don't want to kill them. I just want to let them know that I can fight them and I want them to leave me alone.
So you swing with the cutlass a little more prepared this time, and you catch one of them on the arm, who again caught off guard by how good you are, like just not expecting you. And you hear Alex from behind you gasping for breath. They want you. They maybe keep you here so they can get you. They threatened my mother. I'm sorry. You gotta get out. You gotta get out.
I turn around to look at him. I look at the exit and the fact that the figures are still in my way. I make one last like jab at them, and then I run. I drop the sword and I run.
Okay. Where do you run to?
I don't know. I'm just running. I am running up that hill to make a deal with God. Sorry. I'm running vaguely upwards in the direction of the palace. I'm thinking about the other places I know that I could hide, but then I figure if they can make Alex, who I've known for years, turn on me, there's nowhere safe. So I'm just running. I don't know where I'm running. I'm just running until I can't run anymore. And as I'm running, I like, my chest is heaving. I'm sobbing slightly with every step, and I'm like, oh God, Scott, I need to be saved. Fuck, where is he?
I feel like Scott is literally sat in the chair in the same spot all day, like you say, not daring to even like knock on the door. He's he's just so overcome with guilt at how stupid he's been, and how stupid he's been. And so he's been mainly spending his time looking out of the window, and is overcome suddenly with shock when he sees Eric on the ground, running, pursued by two figures. At first he thinks he's dreaming and pinches himself and realizes that it's actually happening, that a window or something in that must have got out, and runs down through the castle to get out to the grounds.
Now that I'm in the grounds, I kind of know what I'm doing, and I am running towards. I'm not running inside the castle because I don't want. Like, I'm scared that that's what they want. I'm scared that they want me to lead them to my family. So what I'm actually doing is running towards the sparring ground. Because I know that there are weapons there, and they're not, like, they're blunt weapons, but there's something. And I'm not thinking clearly. I'm just thinking of the places where I feel safe, and that's somewhere that I feel safe. And I run there.
Scott is hurtling through the castle, like just absolutely just crashes into a butler carrying a plate of lobster, and just absolutely just tearing down to the spot where he last saw Eric. Notices some spots of blood on the floor, actually from where you caught the one of the hooded figures in the arm earlier, and looks up, also heads to the sparring grounds.
Eric grabs for one of the practice swords that they use, and his back to the wall of swords, aware that he has trapped himself in now, because there are two walls on either side, and he is in the corner. He turns to them holding the sword and says, "What the fuck do you want?"
One of the figures just laughs coarsely. "Well, isn't it obvious? A ransom on the next prince. A pretty penny we get out of your father." And a couple of them, and the two of them, sorry, start towards you again. You see a familiar figure emerging out of the darkness in the distance.
I want to cry out with relief, but I don't, because I want them to be surprised. And I know that I just have to hold them off until Scott gets here, and like I can't describe the anti-adrenaline that floods through my body at that. Like, the knowledge that it will be fine. I just have to hold my own for 5 minutes. And I step again into the patterns that Scott's taught me. Now that I'm on familiar ground, my feet are moving kind of intuitively, and I'm clumsy and I stumble, but I do know what I'm doing a bit. And I try to parry off their blows and say, "You could just fucking go in there and steal something. You don't need me. Fucking nick a statue."
They are not interested in a statue. As you're trying to hold them off, Scott, still running, limping quite heavily from the pain in his leg. He is limping towards the scene. Also, he also wants to cry out, and has had the same instinct as you, that they need to be surprised. He unsheathes his sword and lunges onto lunges at one of the figures, grabs them round the middle and tackles him to the ground.
Yes.
swiftly just cuts their throat, and this blood pours out across the ground, staining the dirt, even seeping into your shoes a little bit.
When he sees that, Eric drops his sword, like in shock. It's like all of the muscles in his body are like reset for a second, and he kind of like, he's trying really hard to not be sick, and he stumbles backwards to lean against the wall, hoping that the other hooded figure is not gonna like, get him, but he just can't. He's just stricken with fear at the sight of blood.
Scott, his sword stained with blood, pulls back. Pain shoots through his leg. I'm here. It's all right. And he makes to get up to lunge at the second assassin, not assassin, sorry, the second attacker. But his leg is just seizing up from the pain, and he shifts over, but he hasn't got the strength to like push himself up, and he just slumps onto the ground again. Fuck. Eric, I'm sorry. He's crawling across the ground to the other attacker. The attacker is just looking down, looking to his fallen companion, shocked, but seeing that Scott is apparently not as much of a threat as he first appeared, is now looking back to you. Eric, out of his bag, he gets like a Hessian sack and heads towards you, Eric.
Oh, come on, Eric says when he sees the sack. His just something's clicked back into place in his brain. And knowing that the attacker isn't going to hurt him too badly, he feints, runs past him to stand in front of Scott. And how quickly is the attacker responding? I'm essentially trying to figure out combat terms right now.
The attacker is actually is actually being less quick. He's kind of got a bit. He's seen how from his perspective. The other, like, these two people he's got to fight. One of them has got to subdue. Are actually not as much of a threat. I mean, one of them is obviously one of them obviously crippled in some way and can't move properly. Some useless bodyguard that guy is. The prince is frozen with fear, sitting duck. So he's being a bit smug.
Okay, so I've moved to bridge the gap between me and Scott, so we're next to each other now. And I kind of roughly, not intentionally, just because I'm like scared, turn Scott onto his back, reach into his jacket and grab the gun from its holster.
You've seen Scott take practice shots with it before. It's a rare weapon. There's not many in the whole kingdom who have one of these guns. It's still considered slightly experimental.
I turn around to face the attacker. My legs are like planted firmly on the ground in like a power stance, but I'm shaking. My knuckles are white as I grip the gun, like I have one hand on it and then my other hand on the hand holding it to steady it, and it's just making it worse. My pajamas are flapping in the wind. I look fucking terrified. My finger rests on the trigger, and I do what I think is taking the safety off. I've just seen Scott do it before, so I do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'll do it. I'll shoot.
The figure laughs, but is a little bit perturbed. Is not come into contact with one of these weapons before. Is not entirely sure how it works. but it's still advancing towards you with the bag. It can't be that bad, surely.
I take as much of a step back as I can without like stepping on Scott.
Scott grabs your ankle gently. Fucking do it. Fucking kill the bastard.
You've got one last chance, and then I'll do it. It'll be really bad. It'll be bad. Just go. I don't want to do this, but
Scott just like slaps you in the thigh to try and like to try and like shock you into just doing it.
it doesn't work. I'm gonna wait for the attacker to take one more step.
The attacker takes one more step.
In fear, I pull the trigger and scream at the same time.
There is when you've heard gunshots before, you have not been this close to them, and it startles you how loud it is. And that's part of why you scream in reaction to that sound. And
it's like I scream while I'm pulling it and then scream again when I hear it.
Yeah. But miraculously, you actually managed to hit this fella, not in the head, but in the chest. He's not killed immediately, but he goes down pretty heavily, yelling in pain, clutching at this strange wound that you've given him.
I throw the gun backwards, like as far as I can throw it, because I don't want to be holding it anymore, but I don't want him to be able to pick it up. And it like lands in the grass somewhere behind the training ground.
Oops.
Scott, what have I done?
They were trying to kill you. I'm sorry. I should have realized. Should have been here. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay. I turn around to him and I like lift him up. I like kneel down and lift him up so his head is in my lap, and I stroke his hair. It's okay. What's wrong with your leg? Did they get you?
No, old war injury. It's worst in the winter, but yeah, I haven't run like that in a long time. Fuck. Sorry. Shouldn't swear.
It's fine. We should go inside and we should talk.
Your father's gonna kill me.
My father never has to know.
All right, help me up.
Yeah. And I do much the same as I did with Alex. Grab your armpit over my shoulder and lift you to your feet. I look down at the guy with the wound. Is it fatal?
It's not fatal. But he's bleeding out. Like it will be fatal soon, and it's so painful that he can't do anything.
Okay. I look like desperately at Scott and then at the guy, and then Scott, can you stand? Can you stand without my help?
It'll be painful, but I think so.
Okay. Go and get one of the medics. And I rip my pajama top off and like shove it against the wound.
What are you doing?
I can't let him die.
This bastard tried to kill you.
He wasn't trying to kill me. He was trying to kidnap me.
Well, it was threatening your life at least. Like, yeah. You don't have to give this guy the time of day.
Yeah, maybe not, but I do have to try and save his life.
As you wish, Manish. And Scott limps off to find a medic. He returns with one, and you notice the windows of the palace. There are people watching, some servants, some ladies in waiting, some visitors to the palace who've seen this this odd scene unfold.
And what they see, the last shot of this scene, illuminated by the partially obscured moon and the lights from the palace windows rushing out onto the lawn, is the prince wearing maroon pajama bottoms, nothing on his top half, holding something down. They can't see what's happening because his back is to them, but they can see him now, his body locked in concentration. The medic rests a hand on his shoulder, indicating that it's okay for him to stop now. He turns away from the body, takes one last look at the blood that is slick and black under the moonlight, and the man that he almost just killed, and throws up. We have one more scene to do.
I feel like the next scene should take place like right after this scene.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm happy with that.
So Scott is helping Eric. Actually, both of them are helping each other. Like, Eric is supporting Scott with his his dodgy leg, and Scott is like consoling Eric after what's been a very traumatic experience. The two of them make their way across the grounds again, and then up through the castle. They pass by servants, ladies in waiting, guests, who some of the servants who know Scott and have chatted with him, like, pat him on the back. Like, word has spread as to kind of rumors of what's happened. They Scott did something really heroic, and it's not quite clear what happened, and the prince's life was threatened. It's not, the details aren't clear, but people are aware something exciting has happened. I think the king is there as well. What does the king do?
He's gone away.
Oh, he's gone away. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. He went away. Never mind. And so the two of them make their way back up through the palace to the East Wing. It's the East Wing, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think, like, someone's drawn a bath.
Yeah, fair enough.
2 baths, maybe? I don't know if we want to go like The Witcher episode 2. Like, I don't know if it's that moment. I think the bards are there. They're like,
I feel like it would have been 2. I feel like it would be like, I don't. Yeah. Whatever. Two baths. When the two of them arrive back, Scott goes and draws a goblet of water, hands it to Eric.
Eric's teeth are chattering against the glass as he drinks. He drinks one glass of it and then another, and then he sighs, world weary and exhausted, and he's sat on the edge of his bed, his head in his hands.
Scott is... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Scott is just stood in front of him.
Sit down. I know standing hurts. Sit down.
All right. And Scott sits next to Eric on the bed.
You saved my life.
I wish I could have been there. earlier. I wish I could have. That should not even have a chance to happen, and that was my failing, and I apologise. This whole thing wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been so disrespectful. And I don't mean on a a lesser to a monarch level, but on a personal level. You're right. You asked me to do one thing for you, and I couldn't help myself. And that's a bond of trust that you gave to me, and I broke. It doesn't matter what rank we are. It was wrong on every account.
It's 10 years tomorrow. My father always goes away for the anniversary because he can't stand to be in the same place as me on the hour so close to her death. And I don't.
That is a tragedy, to be sure. And Scott gently lays a hand on your back, pats your back, but leaves his hand there comfortingly.
I always run away. And the night before, I always go and drink until I can't feel anything. And it was stupid of me to do that. I'm sorry. But I just... When I say that you saved my life, I mean it, because they found me in a tavern, and if you hadn't taught me to fight, I never would have even gotten back to the palace. Ever since it happened, it was just us in a carriage. The bodyguard was killed instantly. They came in and they hurt her, they killed her, but they left me. And I've been terrified of the next time that was going to happen, because I knew that it would be, because I was so young, and I thought that being a prince was great. And it was. My life was incredibly fun until it wasn't. And I don't know how much of all of this running away and defying orders has been, because how do I deserve security and protection when she never? Oh God, I'm sorry. I don't talk about this. I don't know how to talk about this, and I'm just sorry.
It's... My liege, you're not defined by your guilt. 10
Call
years
me
ago.
Eric, please.
Eric, yes. 10 years ago. How old would you have been?
17.
That's you were a child.
I was young and stupid, and I didn't pay attention when I was taught how to fight. because I didn't think I would ever need to.
It does not define you. You are so much more than that terrible incident. You are brave, or at least you have become brave. And you are clever. You just don't believe that you're clever.
It's like his body is fighting against accepting that. Like, when you are kind to him, he flinches and then breathes out. And he puts his hand on your knee as some tether or reassurance. You know, you make me feel like a person.
I mean, surely that's the least I can do. He puts his hand across your hand.
To me, it's the most that you do. It's if a year ago I had been in that bar and those figures had come in, I would have let them take me. I would have known that my father would pay whatever ransom. They wouldn't hurt me that badly. I know the drill. But there was something that made me want to fight to get back, and I didn't know what it was at the time. But I think about it now, and the only thing that's changed is you. You're here.
I think you've always been a fighter. But I think tonight you fought for yourself.
I've always been contrary and confrontational and antagonistic, but I've never had a reason to be. I've never known that I can fight for myself or that I can fight for someone else. And he leans his head against yours.
You feel a little pressure against yours in return.
You make me feel like I have something to come home to. And his cheek against yours now, and he's kind of pressing his face against yours, cautiously, carefully. His breath is bated, and he doesn't want to misstep.
Scott is absolutely burning. Every instinct is telling him exactly what to do, and he knows that this is, if he does this, there's no going back. It's
Eric laughs and leans back for a second so he can look at Scott properly and says, "Kiss me, you idiot."
And Scott does immediately. And grabs you bodily because he's been wanting to do this for so long.
Eric just lets himself be grabbed. He wraps his arms around Scott's body gently, lightly, just allowing himself to be held and touched and moved. And a tear runs down his face.
Scott's hands are just through Eric's hair, then brushing up down his neck and squeeze his shoulders, and then like rub down his back and down over Eric's stomach, and then all over again like 1,000 times.
Eric is gasping and laughing and crying a little bit as well. And he leans back on the bed, both of his hands, one of his hands gripped in the sheet and the other one gripped in Scott's hair, and tilts his head back. And he turns his head, looking to the right, looking to the space where his mother's room is. And he mouths, "I'm sorry." And then he mouths, "Thank you." He closes his eyes and breathes out. As the gas lamps on the wall are dimming and the moon shines in through the curtain, the steam from the baths rises and they are both at peace.
Scene. That was really good. Like,
that was very good.
And just like, oh, I can't wait to watch this back. And just like the process of putting the story together, so much less stressful.
Yeah, right?
Like 1,000 times less stressful.
Fully. Like,
Man.
that felt so much more like naturally paced.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, that isn't, looking back on what we've done, there was not a single moment where I am like, oh god, I shouldn't have done that. That really fucked with the pacing or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, my abode is so dark. Let me turn another light on.
No, I'm like inside a lighthouse here apparently.
Has that even helped a bit?
It's like there's like slightly more blue on your face.
Okay, well that'll just have to fucking do.
Yeah, hell yeah, that was an entire that story spine works really well, and yeah, I could see there'd be moments where we're like, I'm gonna tangent a bit, I'm gonna go off the spine for a bit and maybe do something else. Like, I can totally see us doing that, but like the spine as it is just works really, really well, and I can see it being executed in lots of different ways.
Also, that played through, including my break, was just over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So we did that.
Hell yeah. I should have timed it, but never mind.
No, it's fine. I was timing it, like not by scene, but I was like checking how long things were going. I have a query.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was thinking about re-gamifying it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
go ahead.
What if we, because the thing is, right, the thing that occurred to me especially when the realization scene happened in the tavern when you
Yeah.
were like, these figures enter, is that you were essentially like DMing my
That's what it
interaction
felt
with
like.
NPCs?
Yeah, like
Right. So I think, because I wasn't doing that in the solo scene that we had, I don't know if I should have been.
No. I didn't.
Um,
I didn't realize I was doing it until I was doing it. Like I didn't go in
Yeah.
planning to be a DM, but that's like what it turned into because I was like, oh, I'm railroading this a little bit, aren't I? But I had like a strong idea for like something that would raise the stakes.
No, it was
And
really good.
yeah, I thought you'd be on
But
board with it.
oh yeah, obviously I'm always
Yeah.
on board with whatever shit you pull out. Like, don't even worry about it. Everything you do is amazing.
Oh, see, mate.
What if we, because what occurred to me when we were talking about like the fighting and whatever is that it felt incredibly like a combat encounter, but we just decided what was happening. What I'm
Yeah.
essentially getting at is, should we roll difficulty checks?
I don't know because I feel like it's more like we need to go, okay, what's this fight about?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, I mean, it's like any other scene or a conversation. It's like, yeah, there's a fight happening. A fight is gonna automatically raise the stakes. Why are the stakes being raised? Maybe we call that out. Like, because I was in a position where I was like, yeah, I was like, I should have, because I think I had it in my mind that Alex was like the bait, and then I went back on it and I was like, oh no, he doesn't, and I was like, no, but it makes a lot more sense if he was the bait, and like and so I felt like I should have just called that out really early, and then it would have made it really clear that
When you say call it out, what do you mean?
well, just like say what we think is happening, like because often in improv we'll do scenes and we'll have assumptions about what's happening, but you have to like call it out in a slightly unnatural way. But if you don't do that, the other person doesn't know what you're thinking. So in my mind, I was like, oh, these are assassins. These are like kidnappers who are going to try and ransom off the prince. Like, I'm setting this up so that Eric has to like run away, so that and that's like, I had all those assumptions in my head that was quite railroady. But it's like, but then I was in a position where it's like, if I call that out, it's going to sound so weird. If it's like, we're here to ransom you. I mean, I could have just done that but like, I'm saying it now. I could have just done that, and it wouldn't have actually made it a bad scene at all.
No, but the thing is that you like that's that's because the thing is I think in that scene you had your like DM hat on first and your improv hat on second, and DMs don't just feed you information like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be honest, like it's all about show not tell. Like when you said that they weren't injuring me, I could tell then that like
that's why I said they're not fatally injuring you. They're just trying to hurt you. They're trying to get you in the legs so that you can't get away, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that I can make the light brighter. That's better, I think. That's worse. That's better. Oh, that's cute. We love that. I'm
still recording. I'm still recording. Should I keep this on? Or
I don't mind. It's up to you. You writing things down?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good. Then we don't need to record. I will also write things down.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.